Thanks very much, Ben, and we will have a panel discussion soon. We're a little bit over time, but we're not going to penalise our final speaker, which is Pierpaolo Campostrini. Welcome to the stage, and he will talk about something very local.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. And normally when speaking about Venice, you may imagine we are speaking of the past, but I will speak you about the future, because Venice is a place where the sea level rise already occurred in its history. And more recently, since when we have modern gauges, we have, this is the sea level rise in Venice. For comparison, here in Trieste, and the difference is due to what we call anthropic subsidence, because for industrial purposes, we pump out water after the Second World War, and this gap occurred here. When we stop extracting, the rate is the same, but we lost some centimeters. And this means also that the frequency of flooding in the years, these are decades, increased a lot, especially in the last one period. After the 90s, we had, in the last decade, an enormous growth of number of flooding, more than 100 in each decade. Then we drop down, and we will explain why. But we can go also in a historical city like Venice back in the past, because we have proxies. We have no gauges, but we have proxies. We have paintings. This is a Canaletto painter that shows was taken with a technique, was painted with a technique very similar to photography, and there we have quite clear looking at this green places. We can estimate, give an estimation of what was the mean sea level in the city centuries ago, so we can have an idea how the sea level raised in the city in the last centuries, not only decades. So, since a few years ago, the only way to cope with the sea level rise was adaptation. Adaptation means that you can have a cappuccino here, even when almost 1 meter of tide, because we, in some sense, impermeabilized all the equipment, or try to avoid that water goes inside the shops which are placed on the ground floor. But really, we went beyond any limit for a city. You cannot live in a city which is always flooded more than 10 times per year. And the consequences, not only for the economy, but also for the cultural heritage, were significant. And I will show some example of this. Because when the church of San Marco, the basilica, was built, the sea level was 1.5 meters below. So the constructors cannot imagine a situation like this one. So, which occurred in 2018 and 2019. So, and I will show this terrible November of 2019, when we had a repeated peak of flooding. You see the water against the marble of the basilica. This is inside the narthex, the atrium. This is me with the journalist. And the night of 12 November was the peak, and the water was entering to the crypt. It was like, was very threatening, actually. And because we ran the risk to lose the Basilica of San Marco forever. And the water entered into the crypt, but was not filled, luckily. But we have salt water inside the Basilica. And these are the results. The floor, mosaic floor, which was laid down 900 years ago. And this is one of the columns outside. We can say that the pressure, especially in the last years, we had an accelerated aging of this asset. This is the front of the basilica, especially in the base of the column that were touched by the flooding. We have this kind of degradation of marbles. And inside, the marble is placed over the bricks. When the bricks are wet by salt water, and then they dry, the water goes out, and the salt crystallizes, make like this, breaks internally the bricks. But also the capillarity is an issue, and this mosaic is placed 10 meters above the pavement, but you see that these are crystal of salt because for capillarity the water goes up. Okay, we had a new story now. This was the past, and the story is this system of gates which are known as MOSE, and the first time was operated in the 3rd of October 2020, and this is the level of the sea. And this is the level on the lagoon. So we stopped closing this gate, the level of water inside the lagoon. We had also continue other events in the same year, where we keep closed for 44 hours. And we had events, extreme events, like those occurred in November 22 last year. We have the highest peak measured, more than 2 meters in the sea. Again, in the lagoon, we kept below without flooding. Another game-changing is that we are protecting now the Basilica of San Marco, because I was responsible at that time for the maintenance of the Basilica, and I say never again. What we built outside in the facade, the Basilica is a glass, very transparent glass protection. There are some entrances, so you can go through, even when there is kind of flooding, because this is the lowest place as altitude in Venice. So even if the MOSE is closed, but you may have 1 meter of water, or maybe MOSE enter only, as we will see, over a certain level here. With this level, the San Marco is flooded, but not the Basilica. Now we are impermeabilizing all the insula, all the island around the Piazza San Marco, and so we will not have also here the water. But before that, we have to take care of our most precious building, the Basilica. So how the MOSE is working? It is placed in these inlets, which allow the sea. This is the Adriatic Sea, and this is the lagoon. The lagoon is the largest lagoon in the Mediterranean Sea, 60 kilometers from north to south, 10 kilometers more or less of width. And we can close in these entrances with these mobile barriers. This is the principle. The barriers are laid down on the bottom of the sea. They are iron gates connected to an hinge. We put air. Normally they are full of water. They stay on the bottom. We push inside the air. So these large, 20 meters large, 15 meters high barriers can rise up, float, and taking the difference between the sea and the lagoon. These floating barriers, there are 78 in these 3 places, 1.6 kilometer, 1.56 kilometer of protection, and they are invisible when not in operation. So we did, it is a system, not only the barrier, because we have to reinforce the littoral island, like this one. This is the Pellestrina Island. Again, on the left, the lagoon, on the right, the sea. We have to reinforce this because the Republic of Venice made this seawall You may see this. These have been made at the end of the 18th century by the Republic of Venice, but they were not enough. And so the coastal protection, we took sand from the center of the Adriatic, putting here, realizing a new beach with the submerged dike here, and also in the other part of the littoral, we reinforced the structure. So at the end, what we, in a nutshell, what we try to apply for adapting in the modern area, the city of Venice, taking care of this cultural heritage, because in the past it was more easy, let's say, that because they simply build upper, but we cannot build upper over the Basilica of San Marco. We have to conserve the cultural heritage. We cannot cut the column of the Renaissance for building a pavement higher today. So we have this mixed approach, which is accommodation and the resistance. So the defense of Basilica, this glass barrier, they start protecting since at 55 centimeters, which is the lowest place, up to 90, even if this barrier can resist up to 180. But we have to protect the insula of the San Marco. This is the piazza, the bell tower, the basilica, but there is an island inside the city, because Venice was built is like an archipelago compacted. And we are going to protect this up to 110 centimeters, and then an active, this will be semi-passive protection, and this will be an active protection, operated only when needed. What is the problem? The problem is that the lagoon need to breathe with the sea. So we have a bidiurnal tide, which carry new water, oxygenized water, and take out, flush out deoxygenated water. So, and this occurs 2 times per day, like a breath. If we close, you can stay without breathing for some times, but you cannot stay without breathing too long. And actually, what we say the residence time of the water inside the lagoon, of course, is today is shorter. Sorry, near the mouth of the lagoon here, and is more longer on the border near the hedge, near the land. And so this changing, but in any case, this is a complex biological breath, but that we can, what will happen in the future? In the future, we will be forced, due to the thing that has been sold, to close more frequently the Mose. And at the end, and these are more or less the scenario that you showed before, in the different hypotheses. But what does it mean for Venice? It means that we have to close more frequently. It is looking at this scenario. We have to close, is not likely to occur in the next 50 years, 25 years, to close for 3 weeks, but it's almost certain that at the end of the century, even with the Paris Agreement respected, that we have to close for 3 weeks the Mose. In a more pessimistic scenario, a 2-month closure is a concrete possibility, and the optimistic scenario, and is almost certain for the pessimistic one. So at the end of the century, we will keep closure for 2 months continue, the total sum of closures. And in the worst case, so we will have the gates to close them completely. What does it mean? It means that the Mose will not last too long as effectiveness of the protection. Of course, we can keep it Mose closed, but we have to cope with the other kind of adaptation measurement inside the lagoon. Or maybe we should pass from mobile barriers to fixed gates, maybe around the city. maybe in a different location, solving some problems like the port access, like the biology, the exchanging. I mean, something will be done. Presently, we have not decided yet. We have to start the discussion what will be the adaptation of Venice in the next 50 years. Taking into consideration that we took almost 50 years to build the Mose, since when we decided, we scientists say to the politics, let's start discussing now, because it is now the time, but it's the most important thing that we can discuss only when we are protected. We can, if we were being flooded for 50 times, 52 times, the Mose were operating in the last 3 years, this is not anymore an emergency. So today, all the Venetians are happy. Maybe not all of them are aware that the Mose has been closed for 52 times because it's a clear situation. You can adapt easily to the idea that no protection is needed because we are protected. So we are protected. We have to think now what will happen in the future. So these are more or less my conclusions. Mose system will not be effective forever. A few things in the world are. But it's an example that for the rest of the world, because what occurred in Venice in the past is going to occur to other coastal cities. We have the possibility and we are proposing also to transfer the know-how developed in other situations. I've been asked to go in Antigua, in the Caribbean, to save a cultural heritage site, which is a dockyard made by Lord Nelson, and is a UNESCO site, is laid on the sea, and with the sea level rise, they run the risk to lose the unique cultural heritage they have. In this moment, it's not so difficult. We are going to go there and explain what to do because we already did in Venice similar intervention. So we can, in some sense, show and transmit to the world the know-how that we had developed in the last decades for coping with this problem. And maybe we will learn even better what to do in the next future. So there is a lot of science to do. I would like to, I believe somebody else spoke about this during this conference, but we have in Europe a knowledge hub on sea level rise, where Florence is involved as expert, which is a joint initiative between JPI Climate and JPI Ocean in order to try to put together the best knowledge we have in order to start from a general to local approach. In Venice, we have Corilla, which is actually an effort between two national institutions, OGS and CNR, and 3 local universities to put together the scientific knowledge for not only for sea level rise, but for the overall science which is needed to safeguard Venice. But again, Venice, in some sense, is not an icon of what has been done in the past, but we call Venice today the oldest city of the future. Thank you for your attention.